I'd like to share a story that happened the week of my 26th birthday. My whole life I'd suffered with depression and anxiety. It held me back from lots of different things and pushed a lot of people I loved away. I remember I had recently proposed to a woman I thought I'd be with forever. I had a pretty good job and we had just moved into our own place, but unfortunately, all it takes is one bad day to change everything. I was working construction and had to be there every day before the sun rose. On this particular morning, I felt so burned out. I just wasn't in the mood. I got to work and tried to do my job, but my awesome boss wouldn't get off my back. Every nail I hit, every board I cut, all he did was complain. Not to mention that on a job like this, I worked with dope heads and alcoholics. People that got paid the same as me but could barely hold themselves up during their shifts. I remember I attempted to hammer a nail and it bent. My boss then snatched the tool from my hand and called me a sorry millennial. I tried to ignore it and had an early lunch, but when I went to my truck, I'd be in for another surprise. One of my junky coworkers was inside of my vehicle digging through my belongings. I ran over and drug him out, planning to rough him up, but before I knew it, my boss grabbed and slammed me to the ground. This junkie was actually his son, and he could do no wrong. My boss threatened to turn me in for assaulting his addict son. I explained my side of the story, but no one wanted to hear it. I was called a lot of hurtful and insulting names that day. I refused to take it anymore. When I took my break, I went home and never looked back. To me, a fat paycheck wasn't worth the abuse. I knew my fiancée would probably be upset with me, but it didn't matter. I could find another job. It didn't have to be that one. However, the bad news didn't stop when I got home. Lately, my fiancée and I weren't all that close. The constant burnout from my job left me emotionally exhausted every day. Instead of being there for her, I kept to myself, playing video games or reading books, hardly speaking to her. I thought she understood, but I was wrong. When I got home, I couldn't find her anywhere. It seemed the house was empty, all but a single note on the kitchen table. It was from her, of course. It read, "You're not the person I used to know." With that 7-word letter, she was gone. I called and texted her and everyone else, but no one knew where she went. After that, I sat on the couch and let out a sigh, as if my own personal demons weren't enough to bear. Now I was alone, abandoned by someone whom I thought I'd spend the rest of my life with. All this in one day left me feeling numb, so much so that I didn't care to keep going. The future didn't matter to me. I grabbed a weapon from the closet, one that my father had given me. I got in my truck and drove. There was a pretty well-known spot for what I had planned, one where people would go to spend their final moments. It overlooked a river and was ironically pretty serene. By the time I arrived, it was night and the moon was in full view. I could see it reflecting off the water's surface as I sat down. It was on this sandbar that I started thinking back. My whole life I was a loner. It was so hard to reach out. I thought I had found someone that truly understood me, but even she had grown tired. Tired of trying to tear down the thick shell that surrounded me. To be honest, so had I. That's when I took one more look at the world around me before pulling out my weapon. With my eyes closed, I was fully prepared for the inevitable. That was until I heard footsteps and a small thud. I opened my eyes to see a strange man sitting next to me. He was skinny and looked pretty dirty with tattered clothes. He looked at me with a smile before speaking. "Nice night we're having," he greeted. I was confused and unsure of what he wanted, but I ended up replying, "I guess so." He looked out at the water and let out a sigh before speaking again. "So are we doing this?" he asked. "Doing what?" "Don't play dumb with me, kid. People only come out here for one reason." Thinking he was crazy, I started to get up and walk away. Before I could, he grabbed my arm and gave me a crazed smile. "Just relax, kid. I know what I'm doing." The other 7 looked so happy when it was over. Now feeling more freaked out than ever, I jumped up and sprinted away. The man followed closely behind, calling out to me the entire time. "Come on, kid, don't be scared. You want to die anyway, I'm just trying to help." I kept going, hoping to be back at my truck soon, but to my horror, I'd look back and see him right on my heels. With no other choice, I grabbed my dad's weapon and aimed it at him. "Just leave me alone, psycho, or I'll shoot." Instead of backing off, the creepy man began laughing. "You can't be serious, right? You're no killer, boy. Just look at how much you're shaking." "I'm not afraid to shoot. You want to try me?" I yelled. But my threats didn't faze him, and he rushed me, knocking the gun from my hand. He pushed me to the ground and wrapped his hands around my throat. "Now just relax. It'll be all over soon," he smiled. While lying on the ground being strangled, my life flashed before my eyes. Everything came to me all at once, from my childhood to now. Different memories like a good day or a sweet snack. They brought tears to my eyes. I know I came here to end it, but I was having second thoughts. I didn't want to die by this freak's hands. I had so much more life left to live. With one final struggle, I reached out and grabbed a large rock. Without hesitation, I hit the man as hard as I could. While he was down, I ran for my life. I'll never forget the feeling of relief when I made it back to my truck. I had never been happier to jump in and fire up the engine. I planned to drive away from this situation and stop feeling sorry for myself. But it wouldn't be that simple, as shots rang out from behind me. Looking in the rearview mirror, I saw the man again, only this time he was holding my father's pistol and shooting at me. I lowered my head and kept driving, praying that I would make it out of this. I didn't let off the gas until I saw the highway. I had to be going at least 90. Once I knew it was safe, I pulled over and began to sob uncontrollably. I almost died that night. It's what I went there to do. Afterwards, I was able to pick up the pieces. My fiancée and I made up. I found another job. We even went to counseling and learned to better understand each other. Throughout the years, I've learned to value life. You never know when it will end, and nothing puts things into perspective like a near-death experience. Sometimes I think back on the 7 victims he mentioned, people who felt hopeless like me, but ended up murdered. I can only hope they found peace in their next life. As for that freak, I wonder if he's still out there, still looking for that next poor soul to sink his teeth into. Follow for more.